You've been living the same afternoon for years. That strange, heavy afternoon where your brain feels wrapped in fog. Where opening a simple email feels like lifting something twice your weight. Where you're staring at your screen, aware that time is passing, but nothing is actually moving inside you. And the worst part? You don't even remember when this started. It just became your normal. But here's the truth nobody ever explained to you. That constant mental fog, that invisible weight, that feeling of running on fumes while everyone else seems to function effortlessly. It's not laziness. It's not weakness. And it's not a character flaw. From the outside, you look fine. You show up. You respond. You exist. But inside, every task feels like pushing something uphill with an empty tank. Every decision feels like it costs more energy than you have available. And if you've ever wondered why basic things feel disproportionately hard, why your effort never seems to match your output, there is a real neurological reason for that. And understanding it might completely change how you see yourself. If this resonates with you, if you've been looking for answers, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. This channel is all about understanding how our brains actually work, not how we think they should work. And leave a like if you want to see more content like this, because it helps more people find these conversations. So let's talk about what it actually looks like when your brain is running on empty. Not the clinical version, the real version, the one you live with every single day. The first sign is something most people never connect to: brain exhaustion. You can't start things. Not big things. Not small things. You'll sit there knowing exactly what you need to do, maybe even wanting to do it, and absolutely nothing happens. Your body won't move. Your brain won't engage. And the worst part? You'll beat yourself up about it. You'll call yourself lazy, unmotivated, undisciplined. But here's the truth. Starting requires a specific type of mental energy called activation energy. And when your brain is depleted, that energy simply isn't available. It's like trying to start a car with a dead battery. No amount of willpower is going to make it turn over. And this is where things get confusing, because sometimes you can start things. Sometimes you'll have these bursts where suddenly you're on fire, getting everything done, feeling unstoppable. But those moments aren't sustainable. They're not your baseline. They're your brain flooding itself with stress hormones and adrenaline to artificially create the activation energy you're missing. You're essentially putting your nervous system into emergency mode just to function normally. And afterwards, you crash. Hard. Which brings us to the second sign. Your energy doesn't come from rest anymore. It comes from panic, from deadlines, from crisis. You've probably noticed you do your best work at the last possible minute, when the pressure is absolutely crushing. And you might have even convinced yourself that you work better under pressure, that you're just that type of person. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is that panic and urgency trigger a dopamine and adrenaline response strong enough to temporarily override your depleted state. It's not that you work better under pressure. It's that pressure is the only thing that can jumpstart your empty tank. The problem is, you can't live like this. Every time you rely on panic to function, you're borrowing energy from tomorrow. You're creating a debt that has to be paid back, usually with interest. And over time, even panic stops working. Even crisis stops being enough. That's when you know you've been running on empty for too long. The third sign is something that feels almost embarrassing to admit. You forget things mid-sentence. You walk into rooms and have no idea why. You lose track of conversations while you're actively having them. And it's not occasional. It's constant. People might joke that you're scattered or spacey, and you laugh along. But internally, you're terrified. You're wondering if something is seriously wrong with you. You're wondering if this is just how you are now. But here's what's actually happening. Working memory, the part of your brain that holds and manipulates information in real time, is incredibly energy intensive. When your brain is depleted, working memory is one of the first things to go. It's not that you're losing your intelligence. It's not early onset anything. Your brain is triaging. It's shutting down non-essential systems to conserve whatever energy it has left. And in survival mode, remembering why you walked into the kitchen is considered non-essential. The fourth sign is probably the most misunderstood. You feel guilty all the time. Not about specific things. About everything. About resting. About working. About the things you did. About the things you didn't do. There's this constant background hum of shame that follows you everywhere, telling you you're not doing enough. You're not trying hard enough. You're letting everyone down. And society reinforces this. Productivity culture tells you that if you're not constantly hustling, you're failing. Social media shows you everyone else's highlight reel while you're drowning in your blooper reel. And when you're already running on empty, when you're already struggling just to get through basic tasks, that guilt becomes crushing. But here's the thing. Guilt is often a sign of a nervous system that's been in overdrive for too long. When your brain is chronically depleted, it starts interpreting normal rest as failure. It starts treating self-care as selfishness. The guilt isn't proof that you're doing something wrong. It's proof that you've been doing too much for too long with too little fuel. The fifth sign is one that people rarely talk about, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. You collect things. Information, hobbies, projects, ideas. You have 17 browser tabs open at all times. You start new things constantly, but finish almost nothing. Your interests change weekly. And it's not because you're flaky or uncommitted. It's because your brain is desperately searching for dopamine, for that hit of novelty and excitement that will make it feel alive again. When your brain is running on empty, especially if you're neurodivergent, you're essentially dopamine starved. And novelty is one of the fastest ways to get a dopamine spike. So you chase it. New hobbies, new projects, new information. But novelty wears off fast. And then you're left with another unfinished thing and another layer of shame. The problem isn't that you lack follow-through. The problem is that you're trying to use novelty as fuel, and it's just not sustainable. The sixth sign is physical, but most people don't recognize it as connected to mental exhaustion. You're tired, but you can't sleep. Or you sleep too much and wake up exhausted. Your body feels heavy. Your muscles ache for no reason. You might have headaches, digestive issues, a weakened immune system. And when you go to the doctor, everything comes back normal. Because what they're testing for is physical disease, not nervous system depletion. Your brain and body aren't separate systems. They're completely interconnected. When your brain is running on empty, your body feels it. The same stress hormones that are keeping you going during the day are preventing deep, restorative sleep at night. The same mental exhaustion that makes decisions impossible also makes your body feel like it's moving through concrete. This isn't psychosomatic. It's not in your head. It's your entire system waving a white flag. And the seventh sign, the one that ties everything together, is this. You've become a completely different person when you're alone. Around other people, you can still pull it together. You can still smile, engage, seem relatively normal. But the second you're alone, the mask drops. You collapse. You scroll mindlessly. You stare at walls. You can't do anything, can't think clearly, can't access any motivation whatsoever. And you feel like a fraud because nobody sees this version of you. Nobody knows how hard you're working just to seem okay. This is called masking, and it's utterly exhausting. Every minute you spend pretending to be fine is a minute of energy you're spending that you don't have. And when you're already running on empty, masking doesn't just drain you. It empties you completely. The person you are in private isn't the real you being lazy. It's the real you too exhausted to pretend anymore. So what do you do with all this? How do you move forward when you recognize yourself in every single one of these signs? First, you stop blaming yourself. Seriously, stop. None of this is a moral failure. None of this is weakness. Your brain isn't broken. It's just been running a marathon on an empty tank, and it's finally demanding that you pay attention. The fact that you've made it this far, that you've kept going despite all of this, isn't proof that you're lazy. It's proof that you're incredibly strong, maybe too strong for your own good. Second, you start thinking about energy differently. Not just physical energy, mental energy, emotional energy. The energy it takes to make decisions, to regulate emotions, to filter sensory input, to mask, to exist in a world that wasn't designed for brains like yours. You start recognizing that you have limits, not because you're weak, but because you're human. And you start respecting those limits instead of constantly trying to push through them. Third, you get curious instead of critical. Instead of asking, why am I like this? You start asking, what does my brain need right now? Maybe it needs actual rest, not just scrolling. Maybe it needs movement, or quiet, or connection, or solitude. Maybe it needs you to stop forcing it to function like a neurotypical brain and start working with how it actually operates. There's no shame in needing different things. There's only shame in pretending you don't. And finally, you start to understand that this isn't about fixing yourself. You're not broken. This is about learning to work with your brain instead of against it. It's about recognizing that the strategies that work for other people might not work for you, and that's okay. It's about building a life that actually fits your nervous system instead of trying to force your nervous system to fit someone else's life. Because here's what nobody tells you about running on empty. It doesn't mean you're empty as a person. It doesn't mean you have nothing to offer. It means you've been giving from reserves you didn't even know you had. And it's time to stop. It's time to refill. It's time to build something sustainable instead of constantly borrowing from tomorrow. You are not the problem. You never were. The problem is a world that demands constant productivity, constant performance, constant output without ever acknowledging that humans need to recharge. The problem is a society that treats rest as earned instead of essential. The problem is that nobody taught you how to recognize when your brain is running on empty, let alone what to do about it. But now you know. And knowing changes everything. Not overnight, not magically, but slowly, gradually, you start making different choices. You start honoring your needs instead of overriding them. You start building a life that works for you instead of destroying yourself, trying to fit into a life that doesn't. Your brain has been trying to tell you something for a long time. Maybe it's finally time to listen.